Hi, faithful caregiver. I'm going to be sharing with you today 2 different things that you can do in order to help you not become frustrated and to help you keep organized when you're taking care of your dementia loved one. And let me explain to you why I want to share that. My mom was in the hospital with pneumonia, and the doctor actually came to me and did not think mom was going to survive through that day, and he was wanting to know if she had a living will. Well, I knew mom had a living will, but I did not know where it was. I didn't have it on me at the time. So I was on the phone out in those hospital halls, pacing back and forth, talking to my brother who lived out of state. Then I was on the phone to the lawyer's office and getting the hospital phone number that they could fax mom's living will to them so they would have it in the system. And all of that was going on while I'm thinking my mom's going to be passing away that day. So what I know will help you in that situation is making a binder, and I'm calling it the master binder, to go along with what is the daily logbook that I kept for my mom daily. I'm going to start with the daily logbook and just tell you how I did it. Of course, you'll adjust it to whatever meets your needs the best, but keeping a daily logbook was really vital. It's something I just had to do in order not to get overwhelmed and in order to help any caregiver that would come in during the day to help with mom. They would have this information right there. So I just used this spiral notebook. In fact, when I was researching and thinking back through taking care of mom and what I did, I actually went into this box that I keep all of the papers from when I took care of mom. And it's hard to believe it's been almost like 12 years ago that I took care of my mom. But anyway, I found my papers and I had taken them out of my spiral notebook to store them. And it just reminded me of how important it was for me to do this on a daily basis. It also reminded me of some things that I'll share with you in a minute that will be helpful to you. But anyway, in that logbook, I would put, like, on one of the sheets of paper, if I was you, this is what I would have on hand, is your phone number, of course, and the hospital that you would prefer your dementia loved one go to if something was to happen, and then a family member's phone number or another caregiver's phone number if you could not be gotten in touch with. So those are the things that I would have listed in this daily logbook so that any caregiver coming in would have all that information right there. Because I live in an area where there are several hospitals and there's one that I prefer over the others. So you need to have that in there just in case something happens to them while you're not there, and it makes it easier for the person that's caring for your dementia loved one. So what I did with at the top of this page here, every day I would have a list over here, or I would just list this at the top, and then I would list the days down to the side. And what I put at the top was the medications that mom had and how many times a day that she would need to take them. Then, like in the line under it, I would put the times of day that mom would normally take them, like 9, 12, and 6. That way, soon as mom got her medication, I could just check that off. And that was just helpful for me to keep up with everything because I could not keep up with taking care of mom and the medications without a thought process like this in writing. The reason it's so important to put it in a logbook like this is so that whoever walks through that door can just look at it and they can go, oh, okay, they've already had this, this, and this. Plus, another thing that I would do sometimes, and I'm grabbing my old sheets, is I would write on the side what it was that mom had eaten that day. That way they would also know what she ate or what she was capable of eating even, because, it's going to change throughout dementia as that disease progresses. It changes what they can eat. So if what she was eating changed, I would put it out there to the side. Another reason it's so important to have this logbook is I told Roxanne, my mom's hospice nurse, who was just absolutely wonderful. We just loved Roxanne. I would tell her, if I'm not there when you come by to check on mom, please just in this logbook, would you write the information that you found out about mom, anything that you thought would be important for me to know. And this is like Roxanne's writing right here and down here. And she would write mom's, I'm just going to read it to you. She would write down mom's oxygen level, her blood pressure, her arm circumference even. She'd write down mom's temperature, her heart rate. And then she would even add little notes to it. She would say things like if there's a weak pulse in the feet and explain what that meant. And then she would explain anything that she thought I would need to know or I would want explained if I was there. She would write that note right there. So that way, when I came back, I could just look, there was her note, and then I would just continue on with the day and I would be able to add all the other things to it. Or if somebody else was coming in after I did, or if Roxanne had left and they could look at this and see what exactly was going on with Mom. That makes a huge difference. That is why this logbook is just so important to have. So that is the logbook. Let me set this over here. So we're just going to call this the master binder, and it's a little 1/2-inch notebook. And you might want to use something like this instead of a spiral notebook. That's just the spirals, what I had on hand and what I just used the whole time with Mom. But in this master binder, the reason I would keep this separate, there's going to be a couple of things in here that you might consider to be sensitive material, and you wouldn't want just everybody being able to put their hands on it. So that's why I would do this one separate. The first thing you want in here is your dementia loved one's will, or at least, it doesn't have to be the whole will, but at least their living will and their health directives, and possibly if you've done the POLST, and I've done another video on that, you would want to have all of that in here in order to have it on hand, and your durable power of attorney, of course, to have that on hand no matter what situation you're in when you're with your dementia loved one. The second thing that you would want in this master binder that I would consider sensitive material would be my will, or at least part of your will, and let me explain why. Sometimes caregivers die. They pass away before the one that they're taking care of dies. And if you are the caregiver, and if you are financially the one that's taking care of them, and like they are out of money and you're just doing all that care, if you don't have a trust fund that's set up for them that's going to continue that same level of care, your loved one's going to be in a mess. And the easiest way to stop that from happening is to, in your will, already have exactly what needs to happen should you pass away before your dementia loved one does. And that needs to be in this book right here. That needs to be where anybody can pick up this, or you can tell whoever it is you trust, go to the master binder. If something happens to me, it's got all the information in here that you will need to continue the care for my mom or for my dad or whoever it is that you're taking care of. So those are the two things that you might not want just everybody looking at, is to have, parts of your will and parts of your dementia loved one's will in that binder. Okay, the other things that I would have in this master binder, again, not just because you might pass away, but just for reference for yourself and for everybody that's helping you, that you trust, they can go to this master binder and know what's going on. Okay, of course, having it your name and your phone number, this is a good place also to put your family members that need to be contacted at time of death of your dementia loved one. I'd list their names in here, and I'd put their telephone numbers in here, and maybe even their address if you need it to do that, or if you want it to do that. I know that everybody keeps everything on their phone, but I'm telling you, in the moment when your loved one passes away and everybody's gathered around, they're trying to help you, and it's just going to be easier, instead of you trying to find phone numbers or calling out names, if you can just say, here, their name and number is in this book. It just organizes everything. Okay, you have their names in there. Also have the name of the funeral home that you want used, and then have the hospice number also in this book. Make sure that's in it. And I would keep the hospice number also in your daily log book. In this book, keep a list of all of the caregivers that you use and their phone numbers. That way, it's just simple. If somebody else is a caregiver and something happens to that caregiver, they can know to look in this book, or your family member can know to look in this master binder, and there's your whole list of everybody that helps you with them. And it's just, again, something that organizes your mind and organizes your brain and keeps you from getting overwhelmed in certain situations. Then, in here also have a list of all the doctors' names, their phone numbers, and their practice, or where the address is. Have that all in this book. Again, the preferred hospital, I would keep that in the master binder. Let me just throw this in here too. If your dementia loved one is in the hospital, please, if at all possible, never leave them alone in the hospital. Number one, they aren't staffed or trained to take care of dementia loved ones. So your dementia loved one is not going to get the same level of care if you don't have somebody sitting there that is being very attentive to them. And another reason, just so many reasons, but I know when my mom was in the hospital, they would not let me pull up her bed rail. And they said it was called restraint. And I'm like, yes, I want her restrained. But they weren't allowed to do that. Every time I would come in, the rail would be down. So I would just pull it up. And if I'm there, I can pull it up. But if somebody's not there that knows they can do that, then that rail stays down. And to me, that was just dangerous for my mom because she had dementia. So there's so many reasons that if at all possible, please stay there with your dementia loved one in the hospital. And I know how tiring that is, but it's going to be so worth it because you can give them better care than anybody can. Okay, something else to have in here is the pharmacy that you normally get their medications from and the phone number for that pharmacy. Then have the list of medications that are in there. Also have in here the list of allergies. If your dementia loved one's allergic to latex or whatever it is, put that in here also. Do not assume that because they've been to the doctor or they've been to the hospital that they have all of that right there, that they can look at it and see it, because that's not always the case. If it's in this book and you can tell them when you get there, then that's going to just, again, up the care level of your dementia loved one. Okay, so in this, also the PAINAD, we've gone over PAINAD before in another video, so you'll just want to check that out. If your dementia loved one has been having pain and you're keeping up with the PAINAD sheets, then I would keep them in this master binder and on the daily log book also. If they're like in an episode of it, I'd keep it there where whoever it is that's caring for them can see what their pain level is. And I'm not going to go into detail with that. I did that in another video, but the PAINAD sheets. Then in this, when you take this to the doctor's office with you, you can put their aftercare records in here also, their papers and what the diagnoses are that the doctor has given you, and all that information can just store right in here. Another thing that I would put into the master binder is just have like a little separate section and just put in there again your routine that you have for your dementia loved one, because you know what works best. So if something, God forbid, happens to you, it would be wonderful for your dementia loved one if that is listed in here. Your routine, like when you bathe them, when you toilet them, when you change their adult brief. Also have in here what foods they like, what foods they will not eat, or if they're, on soft foods, or if they're gone to liquids that are thickened. If that information is kept in this master binder, I promise you it's just going to make your life easier. And when you're bathing them, there might be certain things that you say to them or phrases that you say to them that make it easier on them, on the dementia loved one. And if you'll write that down, it's going to make it easier on anybody that's taking care of your dementia loved one. Okay, I think I have covered almost everything. I think I've covered everything that I think would be really vital. And I know that that's a lot, what I just talked through. It's only going to take you a couple of hours to get all of this together. And once it's together, you're going to see how useful it is to have this daily log just on a kitchen table where everybody can see it and they can just write down what's going on with the day, and then this master binder if something should happen to you, or if you're in a hospital setting where you need to have all their information at hand. You want to have it right there, easily accessible to you. I know that's a lot. And I will, in the description notes, I'll put down the list of things that you would need to have in these books. I'll try and organize it a little bit in there so that you can read it a little bit easier. And I may even at some point actually come up with a PDF that you can just download. Not today, but at some point. All right. Thank you as always for taking care of your dementia loved one. God bless you and stay true.